Loredana Alessio Mulhall suffers from multiple sclerosis, which she was diagnosed with in 1989. Since then, the condition has progressed to the stage where she has lost the use of most of her body, requiring carers for 7 hours of the day.
It takes nearly 4 hours in the morning to get me ready because I insist on having a shower every day. I just have to have it.
Loredana remains determined to live despite her condition, but now in her early 60s and facing the prospect of deteriorating health, she believes it is unjust that the law does not give her the right to choose when and how she will die.
Euthanasia for me is not any issue, not a big issue at all for me. My children are grown up. They're adults, they're happy, they're in their 30s. You know, I've done whatever and I feel quite satisfied with my life. And I feel like, why keep suffering? It is now getting to the stage where I'm beginning to feel every day it's a burden.
Since the Federal Parliament annulled the Northern Territory's Rights of the Terminally Ill Act in 1997, the debate over voluntary euthanasia has continued, despite no laws being passed. Opinion polls have for several years hovered around 80% support, yet no parliament has been able to pass legislation to legalise the practice. But it might be the case that the times are changing.
I do think the law will change. I do think we are in a position where more and more people are talking about it, seeing how crazy it is that we have these laws, understanding that death is okay, and we can plan it if we want. We do have that control, and we should.
New South Wales Greens MP Kate Furman represents the party on euthanasia. She says that the community support is impossible to ignore and believes that legislation is inevitable.
The Greens support voluntary euthanasia or assisted suicide with stringent safeguards. So I have a bill that I've tabled before the New South Wales Parliament that is called the Rights of the Terminally Ill Bill, and what that is for people with terminal illness whose pain and suffering cannot be alleviated, who choose to and are of sound mind, can request of their doctor that they be given assistance to die.
Early next year, Tasmanians are likely to vote on a co-sponsored piece of legislation which is currently being drafted, and if passed will legalise euthanasia for the terminally ill. According to palliative care specialist Dr. Megan Best, however, euthanasia is often the subject of a misinformed debate.
As a palliative care doctor, I think that most of the community isn't actually clear on what euthanasia is. I think there's a lot of confusion between normal end-of-life practices that we do in palliative care all the time that are legal and ethical, and what is being advertised as something that requires a change in the law. In a lot of the campaigns for euthanasia, we hear, well, you need euthanasia laws to allow people to not be kept alive as a vegetable if they don't want to be, to have adequate pain control, things like that. But in fact, these things are legal already, and people can say in advance what kind of treatment they do and don't want. So people have a say in what happens at the end of life.
The bills that have been examined by Australian state parliaments in recent years have been exclusively for people suffering from terminal illnesses like advanced cancer or heart disease. For people like Loredana, however, whose condition is incurable but not terminal, the law as it stands is not sufficient.
I mean, it's disgraceful, I think. It's disgusting that the law, that somebody who's helping me, another human being, in this situation, could be charged with murder. I mean, don't people like me have enough problems?
But could the debate over voluntary euthanasia be holding back a more important debate about improving end-of-life care?
I'm very concerned that we're talking about euthanasia in a very simplistic, superficial way, and that a lot of the things that need to be done to improve what it's like to be dying in Australia aren't being done. And I think that the euthanasia debate in a way is hijacking improvement in care of the terminally ill, and I think that's a scandal.
Richard Mills, president of pro-euthanasia advocacy group Dying with Dignity, believes that the reason for inaction and contention when community support is so strong is due to the influence of powerful lobbying groups.
The very brief reasons I think why politicians don't embrace it is that it's the policy is opposed by the churches and by the medical association, the major players, and overseas experience and here too local experience has been that the church mounts a very effective political campaign against it based on their faith. Our position on that is that of course we respect their beliefs, but all we're asking is that they respect ours.
Although she does not want to end her life now, Loredana says that if euthanasia were available to her in another state like Tasmania, she would consider going there, just for the freedom of knowing there is an option available to end her suffering.
And if it happened there, I've never thought of moving because I know I've got so many friends here. But I would, very seriously. I mean, I would go there.